Thank you for joining me as we talk about microaggressions. You might have said the sentence, I didn't mean anything by it, or they're just too sensitive. I hope after going through this presentation, you'll understand why microaggressions are very damaging. They are known as death by a thousand cuts. As you know, DEI work is a journey, not a race. I hope you are on that journey with me to continue learning about yourself and others. Just some history for you. Dr. Pierce coined the term microaggressions back in 1970. He was looking at how Black Americans were treated in the workplace. And then Dr. Rowe in 1973, she said, well, wait a minute. Dr. Pierce's work could also work with women in the STEM fields. And then Dr. Sue in 2007, he said, yes, this can work for Black Americans, women, but also for people in other underrepresented or marginalized communities. So when we say microaggressions, we're really talking about one of these four, but we don't usually identify and say, oh, I had 3 micro assaults, 1 micro invalidation, and micro assault happened to me today. We probably are just going to say, I had several or lots of microaggressions today. So, what is a microaggression? It's a commonplace verbal or behavioral indignity, whether intentional or not, which communicate a hostile, derogatory, or a negative slight or insult. It's commonplace. That's the key here. These are common. So when we get to the examples, some of you are going to say, oh my goodness, I had no idea. I feel the same way. I feel the same way. Microaggressions. We just read the definition of that. Micro insult, subtle, spur of the moment, backhanded. And it can be hard to tell if the perpetrator is even aware what they're doing is insulting. It's that backhand that you just can't tell. Do you know that you said this to me? A micro assault, the biggest, violent, obvious, on purpose. You cannot deny a micro assault. A micro invalidation, implying or telling someone that their experience isn't real. Environmental microaggressions, when something physical or social context communicates a negative message. We're going to have examples of all 4 types of microaggressions. Let's start with micro insults. Let's look at gender and ability. Have you said some of these things? You're so beautiful for a trans girl, or he's gay, but he's the greatest guy. You didn't let him pay? You went out on a date and he didn't pay? Now, some of you might say again, well, if I'm talking to my friend and my good girlfriend went on a date with Bob and it sounded expensive, you mean to tell me saying you didn't let him pay is an insult? Yeah, it is. Here's why. Not to say that you and your friend don't have the relationship where this is okay, right? That's individual and only you can determine that. I'm talking in general. It's an insult because what I'm doing, if I said that, if I'm the one that's saying that to the person, you didn't let him pay. I'm basically telling you what my bias is. My bias is that, in this example, men should pay for that date in that example. But that might not be how you two think about it. That's my bias, thinking that the man or the male should pay in a heterosexual date. It's something that if that person telling you the story has heard 10 times, at that 11th time, it's probably very tiring and irritating that that's all you heard out of my whole story. If you happen to know someone who is transitioning, maybe you did know Bill, You went to high school with Bill and college, and now you see Bill. Bill has transitioned to Susie. You could just say, "You're so beautiful." You don't have to say, "You're so beautiful" for a trans girl. No need to add that last part of that sentence. See how it could be, is that a sleight of the hand, or did you really not mean anything by it? Ability. You might have said things like this: I could never deal with what you have going on. Oh my goodness, you look so normal. Now, did you mean to hurt someone's feelings when you said that? I'm going to assume the answer is no. Maybe when you looked at me and said, Gina, I could never deal with that. Maybe you're trying to say, Gina, you're strong, that you've conquered whatever it is. But on the flip side, and that's what we're talking about today, we're putting ourselves in the mind of the receiver. As someone who is just trying to live their life every day, and someone comes up 1, 2, 10 times a day and says, "Oh my, Gina, I could never deal with that," or "Oh wow, you look so normal." See how that can be insulting. You couldn't deal with my life, but I am, so it's just ugly. Please don't say people suffer from, "Oh, Gina suffers from diabetes," or "She suffers from dyslexia, she suffers from whatever." That's our language is very violent, and I'm not suffering from anything. If you haven't heard the term inspiration porn, that was coined in 2012, and it's being looked on as if you were an inspiration to someone. More micro insults, racial, sexual orientation. People asking someone, well, can you see as well as other people? Why do you sound so white? Or you must be here on a sports scholarship. Or wow, you don't speak Spanish? Again, are these questions asked individually? Maybe some of them don't sound like an insult. However, if you're the one receiving them, it's an insult. What if I do have a Spanish sounding name? Does that mean I have to speak Spanish? So for you asking me, you don't speak Spanish? You're insulting me in some way because your expectation is this and I haven't met it. But it's really your bias talking. Can you see as well as other people? What an insult. We're speaking about maybe folks who identify as Asian, the shape of their eye. This has happened on our campus. Students have told me that people have asked them this question. Why do you sound white? How would you expect me to sound? Again, can you hear that that's your bias coming out in these questions? Using the term gay to describe something, please don't do that. Maybe there's a gay couple that's being told not to hold hands or show any display of affection in public. It's an insult. Would you say the same thing if it was not a gay couple? Micro assaults. Remember, these are the ones that you cannot deny what's happening here. Tripping someone who's walking with a cane, and then I stand there and laugh. Obviously, I meant to do it. I'm laughing. I'm not helping the person. It's an assault. What if I threw trash out on a person? That's pretty obvious. Hanging a noose in a tree, pretty obvious. Displaying the Confederate flag or the swastika, pretty obvious. If you were on campus last year, we had the whiteboard incident. Using the term Oriental, colored, or the N word. These are assaults. These are things that you cannot deny happened. Micro invalidations. These are those ones, remember, that you're telling me that my experience isn't real. So if I sit here and tell you a story of something that happened to me, and it's related to uh, someone calling me the N word when I was in the third grade. And I'm telling you what happened and how that made me feel. And if you say, oh, well, Gina, there's just no such thing as racism. Can you see how you're invalidating I just told you that this happened to me in the third grade and someone called me the N word, which is related to racism. So, as I'm telling you this, if you say, I've never seen that, or did that really happen? I've been here my whole life. You're invalidating my experience, and it's hurtful and wrong. If someone says, I don't see color, what an invalidation. If you don't see color, and I'm standing here staring at someone who um, is a person of color, I'm basically telling them that, wow, your experiences and your lived experiences, okay, I'm not going to see them because I don't see your color. It's okay to see people of color. Oh, if someone says, well, Gina, there's no way I can be racist or any of the other ists words because my friend's uncle's daughter's best friend's sister is the race we're talking about, therefore I can't be racist. You're invalidating this. Probably one of the best invalidations that most of us have probably said at one time is, well, where are you really from? Well, where are you from? And I say, oh, I'm from Columbus, Indiana. No, where are you really from? Columbus, Indiana. Well, no, you know what I mean. Where are you from? Columbus, Indiana. Every time you're asking that person that repeated question, you're invalidating their answer. They have answered you 3, 4, 5 times now. And by you keep asking the question, you're really saying, that's not really the truth. Because people around here don't look like where you say you're from. I don't think so. What you really want to know is maybe their ancestry, where is their ethnic origin. But for you to continually ask, where are you really from, is an invalidation. Environmental microaggressions, if we're thinking about pop culture, TV show with only white characters, if we're thinking of in the classroom, a classroom with one person of color, curricular exclusion of content and perspectives of people of color, one or a few people of color in a work area, or marketing with one type of people. Next steps, if you're a giver of microaggressions, we all are, but we have to work at stopping it. We have to be an active bystander or an ally. Ask questions. So if I hear someone say, oh, you're so pretty for a trans girl, I could actually say something like, hey, remember the other day I heard you say this? You really didn't have to mention that part of the sentence, right? I can say something to the person. I want to be an active bystander, an active ally. I need to speak up. Maybe if it's something that's a micro assault or a micro insult, you could actually say, you know what, that kind of language isn't accepted here. It's not accepted in this classroom, this office, this department. Or you might want to say, you know what, let's talk later about that. If you're a receiver of microaggressions, that's a separate conversation. Here's a sneak peek though. What usually happens is you go into 4 phases. You question, did that really happen? I don't know. Did that person mean to say that? Then you get angry because now you know time has passed. You've just now realized it was a microaggression. Now you're frustrated because maybe the time has passed and you don't feel like you can confront that person anymore. And then by the end of the day, you've gone through several, you're just exhausted. Here's some resources for you. Please know, of course, if you have questions about microaggressions, you can ask me. And I thank you so much for joining me.